trouble when our economy is now failing, and it will continue to fail because it's predicated on lies, on fiat money lies. We're so in debt. We know the story. We know hyperinflation will probably come unless God does something miraculous. We know that we're in trouble. Yet we run back to America, the flag, George Washington, the ancient paths of our ancestors, rather than run to the God of Israel, El Elyon. We don't go back to the original God. We don't go all the way back to the beginning, the God of creation. We go halfway to the gods of our forefathers who won a war, because we remind ourselves that they won a war or two. And they established a constitution, which is not the Bible, guys. The Bible is the regulating way that we should think. The Word of God. And as people tap into the Word and tap into the Spirit, that's what's important for now. And yes, we do call America back to God. We don't call them back to the flag. We call them back to God. God may rework this country in a new way that we don't even understand if we go back to Him. Not make the red, white, and blue be the thing, but God Himself. Correct our faulty thoughts of the Enlightenment as it came over and imbued and twisted up the teachings of the Christian church at the time of writing the Constitution. It was this idea of man being able to find euphoria by a tremendous self-government, a fair government. But there was a lot of problems in all of that. You know that, guys. We're talking about the real covenants now. We're talking about the original covenants, which are all woven together. I've done this teaching on it. You can see it if you go to my channel on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff I talk about coming back to the covenant. People say, well, the covenant's already revealed. But the covenant's revealed for us to respond to the covenant. And our response is to come to the God of the covenant, come to His Son, the mediator, our advocate, the one who stands in our stead. The blood He shed. We come back and partake of that blood. That's an act that we have to do. We have to correct our ways and go back to Him. And that's what we got to get back to. And that's what I'm going to bring to you now as we take that example of an adulterous nation that was flowing in the stubbornness of their evil hearts, ignoring God. And we move forward to Paul here, a servant of Christ. And all of us, that's all we ever get to be, is servants of Christ. None of us is a super saint. None of us is an apostle, as it were. We want to put apostles up on. Apostles are scum of the earth. Let's just get that understood. Paul was never a guy who lapped in luxury. These so-called apostles today that play that card, it's ridiculous. An apostle is bond slave of God, and he's somebody that's going to suffer. Apostolic mystery is super, super, super hard. So all you want to be apostles, be prepared to suffer. Be prepared to be stretched out and, as it were, on a rack. One thing pulling your arm this way, that way, and your head getting yanked. That's what it is to be an apostle. You're a bond slave. You carry your cross daily. You want to be an apostle? Go find your cross. Go find the things that you love. If you like the preeminence, if you like, having your own, TV ministry, put all those things to rest. Die to that, and then take up your cross and follow Jesus. That's what the Lord would say to you who want to be preeminent apostles, super apostles. Paul had a word for them, and I have a word for them. It's garbage, being a super apostle. It's a joke. In verse 2, or chapter 2 of 1 Corinthians, we have Paul explaining the power and the reason why things happen so as they happened in Corinth. A major, powerful church with, tremendous spiritual life came forth in a decadent, idolatrous, orgy-filled, Diana-worshipping city, a port city with commerce everywhere, and gods being worshipped everywhere. And in that city, God did a major work. And I would say that those cities are not, probably even more decadent than our New York cities and our Hollywoods and our LAs. But the point is, it's decadent, it's decadence. Evil, worshiping idols is what it is. Whether we do it in this form or that form, idolatry is idolatry to God. He knows our hearts. He knows if we're really worshiping Him or not. So in chapter 2 he says, "And I came to you, brethren, I did not come with superiority of speech or of wisdom, proclaiming to you the testimony of God. For I determined to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified." What is Jesus Christ and Him crucified? What does it mean to know nothing but that? Well, we go back to what I just said. We go back to what are the terms of this covenant. It's take up your cross and follow him. Do you think that's just for a handful? Or do you think that's for all of us? I mean, whether you're going to be a school teacher, whether you're going to be a businessman, whether you're going to be a scientist, whether you're going to be an artist, whether you're going to be a home builder, whether you're just going to be working some business as a middle manager, doesn't matter. You're always to take up your cross. That's just not for the super saints. That's just not for people who are called to preach the gospel to the world. That's for everybody. And Paul says, I came and offered to you nothing but my knowledge of Jesus Christ, which separated him from his Pharisaical lifestyle, separated him from being a student of Gamaliel. It separated him from being a killer of Christians. It separated him from everything he knew, and it put him in a desert, and then it put him back in Tarsus, and it changed everything for him. That was dramatic. And our call is dramatic. If you don't have a story about a radical change, then I wonder if you really encountered Jesus Christ. All of us that are called to preach this message have had an encounter with Jesus Christ. Because we can only preach what we know of Jesus Christ. We have to know him personally in the spirit realm. Paul gets into this in this section. But it's a spiritual interaction. It's not an intellectual interaction. It's not, oh my goodness, Jesus is smarter. Jesus was more brilliant. No, cross is foolish. To be a leader that ends up dying on a gruesome cross. Like, think of it like this. If I were to get in trouble with the government and they decided to make me a fool in front of everybody, and they decided to inject me with some serum that was going to kill me, but they did it on TV, and everybody laughed at me and they scoffed at me. Even my own family was confused. They were scared. They were crying. It was just a horrible scene. And that would be my end. And then, people would continue to say, boy, wasn't that guy a jerk? Boy, wasn't that guy crazy? Boy, that was insane. We did the right thing. They would sit there. But that's the way it was for Jesus. He was a public figure that died in ignominy. He died in an embarrassing way. And Paul's saying, that's who I preach to you. This one who you wonder who he really was, but most of you think that he was a fool. You don't think he was God. You don't think he had the power to resurrect. You don't think he was alive and well. You don't think he's at the right hand of the Father. I know him because I heard his voice from the third heaven. He spoke to me and he called me and he separated me. I'm now a changed man because of him. And I'm telling you, that's all I really know. I don't know about your philosophy like I could, because he goes on to say, I came to you in weakness and in fear. He was afraid to preach and in much trembling. He was afraid to stand up in the public sector and argue with these philosophers about this cross-bound Messiah, this one who died a horrible death. He says, and my message and my preaching, they were not with persuasive words of human logic, which a lot of times we get into when we start to get into apologetics. We start to get into some of the teachings I've heard on creationism. It's apologetics. It's intellectualism. God is creator. We could sit there, we can be a scientist and have all the reasons to prove biologically in the macro and the micro, and we can sit there and teach and show that some bacteria is intensely designed, it's got 1,000 motors, and it proves that it has to be intelligent design. That couldn't have just evolved. We can get into the science of that, or we can just look at somebody and say, you know what? I know there's a creator because you don't make sense without one. And you need a creator, and I need a creator. I need a designer. I want to know my creator, and it makes me complete. We can speak on that level. But Paul didn't come to try to convince them that their gods were alive versus his God. He didn't try to do like Elijah even, with a competition between the fire who was going to consume his sacrifice versus the sacrifice of Baal and Astra. He says, I came and proclaimed the cross. I proclaimed a dead but alive Messiah named Yahshua, who was a Jew, a rabbi, a teacher of the law, but a teacher of a new way.